there! My name is Tanner, and I'd like to welcome you back to my YouTube channel. Now, today's video is going to be the second in a series where I talk about my fantasy world in preparation to talking about some of the characters I created specifically for that fantasy world. Now, in last week's video, I went over the lore, the story, and the setting that I created for this world, as well as the 7 different character archetypes you would come across in this world. Now, in this week's video, I wanted to talk about magic, specifically how magic works in this fantastical / futuristic world that I created. This will include, but won't be limited to, talking about spells, talking about spell casting, and talking about the difference between spells and magical abilities. So without further ado, here is My Fantasy World Part 2. So to start off, I'm going to explain the origins of magic itself, at least my version of it. You see, magic in this world, as varied and as branched as it is, originated from one source, one that the ancient Greeks once called the mist. Now, back in ancient times, and before the magical world revealed itself to the mortal population, the mist acted kind of like a veil that clouded the eyes and the brain, causing mortals to see anything magical as mundane. For example, potions would look like sodas, magical creatures would look like normal people and animals, and magic items might look like ordinary objects. For example, a wand might look like a drumstick or a phone, a grimoire might look like an ordinary notebook or a laptop, etc. Now, this veil was once maintained by the various immortals who specialized in pure magic, such as the Grecian titaness Hecate, the Egyptian scribe Thoth and his queen Isis, and Odin, chief of the Norse immortals, among others. Even to this day, those who are demigod children of those immortals will possess the ability to manipulate pure magic, though this usually manifests itself differently depending on their parentage. However, now that the magical world has been revealed for quite some time, the mist is usually channeled by others connected to magic, which is mostly everyone, into spells and magical abilities. One other thing that magic is used for is the creation of magitech, which is futuristic technology that is powered by magic. For example, most vehicles, including broom cycles and cars, are powered by their owner's own magical energy, which, in and of itself, is a clean and renewable energy source. Now, to clarify, there is a big difference in between magic and magical abilities. All who are born with a connection to magic are able to use magical abilities, but only a few are actually able to harness it to cast spells. A magical ability is something that isn't a spell, but an ability that a magical creature or being possesses. For example, a Gorgon's petrifying gaze, or the healing powers of a unicorn, or a dragon's breath weapon, or a mermaid's water manipulation and siren song. You get the idea. There are a select few who are able to channel the mist to cast spells, those being the mages, the fairies, the genies, the catsith, and the kusith, as well as any hybrids, demimyths, and demigods that contain these. Now, there are 2 different types of spells. Spells that can only be cast by those 5 spellcasters, and those that can be cast by anyone, as long as they have a connection to magic, have at least a human-like intelligence, if not higher, and have the ability to speak. Now, that second type of spell tends to almost exclusively be in Latin, though there are a couple of spells that are in Scandinavian, and a couple of spells in Wonderlandish, the native language of Wonderland. Though not always the case, those spells are almost exclusively for brewing potions, performing magical rituals, and crafting magic items. Now, the spells that only spellcasters can use tend to be in the individual's first language, though they can't be cast in any language the individual can speak fluently. Now, spells of this kind need three things: enough raw magic to fuel the spell, enough imagination to shape the spell, and a spoken incantation to bring the spell forth. Now, the 5 different types of spellcasters I mentioned earlier tend to possess at least one specialty, which is the way their magic naturally takes its shape. For example, one might specialize in water magic, one might have music as their specialty, one might find that their specialty is the animal kingdom, etc. There are times, though they are unusual, where a specialty manifests itself as something like enchantment or transmutation or protection. And there are other, even rarer times when a specialty manifests itself emotionally rather than physically. Also, spellcasters tend to have 2 pieces of equipment with them at all times: a grimoire, which is a magical book that holds a record of any spells each caster learns for later use, and a magical focus, which they use to channel and, well, focus their magic. Now, these magical foci can take the form of an object of some kind or another, such as a wand, a staff, a deck of cards, and a sword, among other things. And in the cases of genies, as well as any demi-myth, demigod, and hybrid that are part genie, usually a lamp, a ring, a pendant, or a bottle, though other options are not unheard of. If you want to read up on the different ways that a focus can take shape, I'll put the link to that specific article on my website in the description below. Now, I bet you're wondering, but Tanner, how does a caster find out what their specialty is? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, when spellcaster children are young, they are mentored by those various immortals and stories who specialize in pure magic, such as Hecate, Odin, Thoth, Fairy Godmother, Mother Goose, Merlin, etc., until they come of age. Now, when they come of age, they will take part in what is called a realization ceremony, presided over by their mentors. There, a torch set in the middle of the venue will be lit by an enchanted white flame, and the mentors and their students will walk up to it. The student will place their training weapon into the flame, and the mentor will cast a little bit of their magic into it. When they do, the flame will change from white to a different color, and a tongue will curl around the student and change into a magic circle, depicting the specialty of the young caster in some way or another. Now, when it does, their hair/fur, their eyes, and, in the case of fairies Katzith and Kusith, their wings will change color and pattern to show what their specialty is. The training weapon itself will also change form until it matches the individual's specialty, thereby becoming their magical focus. Now, to wrap this up, I have one other thing I need to tell you. All magic, whether through spells or magical abilities, comes at a price. Now, in order to explain what that price is, I will use the analogy I use for my role-playing game. You see, everyone has their life points and their magic points. When one casts a spell or uses a magical ability, they will spend magic points. If they keep casting spells or using magical abilities, they will spend more and more magic points. Magic points can be regained with rest and food. However, if one tries to cast a spell or use a magical ability and they have no magic points left over, then that spell or ability can and will tap into their life points, with irreversible and very, very deadly results. Well, on that note, there we have it. That was part 2 of my series detailing my fantasy world. If you like this video and you want more, please give this video a like and subscribe down below so you don't miss any new videos. Also, if you have any ideas for any future videos, please leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and it might just happen. Alright, well, that's all the time I have for this video, so I'll see you all next week with part 3 of this series. See you then!